Hello everyone, welcome. I'm Ashley Detrick from 21st Yoga in Salt Lake City, and I am teaching a prenatal class today. It's an all levels, all trimesters yoga flow practice. You will need two blocks if you have them. If you don't, you can always use some books or a stool or anything just to bring the ground a little bit closer to you. And if you would like to grab a blanket for some extra padding on your knees when we're working on our hands and our knees, that would be great as well. If you would like something like a bolster for your Shavasana at the end, a couch cushion or any kind of pillows would be perfect as well. So grab your props and we'll get started. So find just a comfortable seat to start. I'm sitting up on a block just to give my hips a little bit of rest. And I invite you to close your eyes, finding this comfortable seat. That could look like a cross-legged seat. It could also look like more of a hero's pose on your knees, or even if your legs are stretched out in front of you. So whatever that looks like for you. And start to move inward. So whatever noise might be happening in your periphery, that literal or figurative noise, starting to move inward into this quiet place. And noticing the body this morning. Noticing those parts of the body that might need a little bit of extra attention. Noticing the parts of the body that might feel really nice. Noticing the thoughts. And finally noticing the breath, bringing this awareness into the breath, the quality of the breath, the quantity of the breath, maybe where you feel your breath the most. It might be getting a little bit harder to take these deep breaths as baby is growing. And just noticing that. Bringing your awareness into this prana energy. And then start to deepen the breath. Taking that breath as deeply as you can. Taking that breath all the way into baby. Noticing the expansion on the inhale. Noticing the contraction, the hugging in on the exhale. Allow every breath to grow deeper and more full than the one before it. And allowing the mind to follow the breath from the very beginning of the inhalation to the very end of the exhalation. Notice the rib cage expanding in this three-dimensional movement. And again, just starting to move into this quiet place. This breath is the base for our yoga practice. Continuing to take these deep breaths as we prepare the body to move. If If you would like to bring your eyes open, or just keeping them at a soft gaze in front of you, or you can keep them closed as well. With your next inhale, begin to bring your arms around and up, keeping your shoulders down and away from your ears, and allowing the movement to match the breath. On the exhale, hands come together as they come down into your heart center. And then again, inhale to reach around and up, finding length from your sit bones all the way to your fingertips. And exhale, hands into heart center. Inhale to reach arms up, breathing the length of the body. This time, exhale the right hand down to the earth and begin to hinge over toward the right side of the room. So pressing that right hand into the earth, the further that your hand is away from you, the deeper the stretch is going to be on the side body. Both sit bones here are weighted evenly against the earth or your prop, and the rib cage is on the back of the body. Taking deep breaths along the left side of the body. Your gaze can look down to the earth, or it can look straight ahead, or you also have the option to look up towards your arm or the ceiling, whatever feels best for your neck. Take a big, expansive breath into that space between the left rib cage and the left hip. And with your inhale, coming back up to center, both hands reach up, and exhale to the left side. So your left hand comes down to the earth. Again, you get to choose the depth of this pose, whatever works best for your body. Both sit bones against the earth. Your head and your neck land wherever it feels best. And breathing and creating more space on the right side of the body, allowing both shoulders to melt. And feeling this breath breathe this pose. Feeling the breath in between each of the ribs, into those little muscles on every expansion. And with your inhale, coming back up to center, both arms reach up. And allow the hands to come down at a V at your sides. Roll the shoulders up toward the ears and allow them to move, the shoulder blades move down the back or down the spine. And then take your chin to your chest and tuck the chin up so you feel a nice stretch on the back of the neck as the back of the neck moves up toward the ceiling. Reach down through both sets of fingertips, keeping the rib cage on the back of the body, so we're not thrusting the rib cage forward. And then allow the chin, keeping that tuck, to come back up so the neck is stacked on top of the rest of the spine. So I'm going to turn to the side view. You can see it a little bit better. Is that what we have a tendency to do is to jut our chin forward. So by bringing it to the chest and tucking it up and bringing it, the neck on top of the spine, we're keeping that chin back and in. So just a little bit more space in our cervical spine. So by keeping the hands reaching down, keeping that alignment in the spine, begin to take your right ear to your right shoulder. Now being mindful that as you take this lateral movement of the ear to the shoulder, that there's no jutting of the chin forward. So keeping that chin tucked in and the ear moves toward the shoulder. And then really reach through the left hand. If you want to take this stretch a little bit deeper in the neck, begin to bend the elbow and take the hand to the side of the left side of the head. just an added weight. And then breathe into this space. So continue to take those deep, full breaths that we started practice from, allowing each exhale to soften through the entire body. Really focusing with those exhales to let go. Let go of the shoulds and the coulds and the woulds that we so often put upon our shoulders. And with your next inhale, begin to lift that left arm straight out from the shoulder. And then flex through the wrist and press your palm of your hand out. The stretch may deepen into that space. So match your breath to the sensation. One last breath here. And with that exhale, you can allow the left hand to come back to the side, keeping the fingers reaching toward the earth, breathing into that space. If you have your right hand on top of the head, you can release that, bringing the hand back out to the side, also reaching fingertips down. And then take the neck down toward your chest and maybe move the head from side to side. Maybe you can notice a difference between each side of the neck. And then again, tucking the chin up, feeling that stretch on the back of the neck, and stacking the neck on top of the rest of the spine, keeping that chin in tucked so the palate is back, and keeping the rib cage on the back of the body. And then taking the left ear to the left shoulder without jutting or changing the neck's position. So left ear moves toward the left shoulder. And now we're breathing space into the right side of the neck. You can stay right here, and that's a perfect place to be. If you would like a little bit more stretch, you can bend the left elbow, bringing the left hand on top of the head. Just a little bit more added weight without moving the neck in any direction. And keep reaching through the right set of fingertips. So breathing space into the neck between the ear and the shoulder. Allowing each exhale to soften that space, but also softening the entire body. So our shoulders often hold much of our tension. This is a nice stretch for that, for the neck. Notice the jaw and whether that is clenched or maybe your forehead. With your next inhale, begin to lift the right arm, flexing through the wrist and pressing the hand toward the right side of the room. Maybe a slight movement of the shoulder or the arm back. Lots more sensation in this stretch. So match the breath. Start to deepen the inhale and the exhale, taking even more breath down into baby, allowing the belly to be soft. Feeling the expansion, that three-dimensional breath throughout the entire torso. Take one more big breath here, and then you can release the right hand back down. If you have your left hand on top of your head, begin to unwind. And then again, lifting the chin and the neck, and then maybe taking the neck into some circles. Your hands can come down to your lap. Taking the head and the neck in, around, in either direction. Maybe also shrugging the shoulders up to the ears and allowing them to settle on the back. Deep breathing. And then as you are ready, begin to make your way onto your hands and your knees. And this is a nice time, if you would like a little bit of extra padding, to take a blanket or anything that you have to just pad or soften the knees, a soft place for the knees to land. And as you come into this tabletop position, the toes are tucked to give you a little bit more stability. Knees are right underneath your hips. Wrists are right underneath the shoulders. Now take the pressure or press even deeper into all 10 pads of your fingers to take the pressure off of your wrists. So from here, inhale to lift the tailbone up toward the ceiling, and exhale to round the tailbone toward your heels. Again, inhale, moving with your breath. The tailbone lifts up, and exhale to round the tailbone down. Pelvic tilts. Now the rest of the spine is not moving. The movement is just coming from the pelvis. Moving with the entire breath here. And noticing how the body is responding to the breath and to the movement. Keeping the mind focused on that breath. Take one more full breath, moving through each side of this pose one time. And then as you come back to a tabletop position, take your gaze around to the outside of your right foot. And inhale to come back to center, and exhale to take the gaze around to the left. So this time we're taking this lateral movement into the mid-spine or the mid-back, stretching through the side body. Inhale to come back to center and moving to the opposite side on the exhale. Take one more visit to each side, just with your own perfect pace. So whether that is faster or slower than my cues, just listening and paying attention and following your own breath. As you come back to the center, we're bringing movement just in to the shoulders this time. So keep pressing through all 10 pads of your fingers. Keep pressing back into your toes. Feel your legs engage slightly. With your exhale this time, start to squeeze the shoulder blades onto the back. You will feel your chest move toward the earth. And inhale to press back into the earth, feeling the shoulders broaden across the back. Again, exhale to bring the shoulder blades together like they're hugging your spine. And then pressing into the earth on the inhale to broaden the shoulders. One more time. Exhale to lower, squeezing shoulder blades. And inhale to press into your hands. Sitting back onto your heels. Again, you can keep that blanket where it is. With your toe tucked, take your right leg out to the side. With your toes pointed up, so your left knee is on the earth, right underneath your hip. Your left set of toes are tucked behind you. The right foot is flexed, so the toes are pointing up to the ceiling. And there's a softness in the right knee. Now bring the right hand to the thigh Inhale to reach the left hand up toward the ceiling without letting the shoulder move up toward the ear. So keeping the shoulder away. And begin to hinge over on the exhale. So the hinge toward the right side of the room, stretching across the left side of the body. Keeping the rib cage stacked on top of the pelvis. And breathing from the left knee all the way up the left side of the body to the left fingertips. Keep hugging the left thigh in toward the right. And inhale to come back up to center. Come down onto the left hand onto the earth. You can lift the right leg up with a flexed foot for a Vashisthasana. Your right hand can move up toward the ceiling or it can reach overhead, getting more of a stretch along the right side of the body. Now lift up through your left hip. So we're thinking in the body about making more of a rainbow shape. This is how we start to strengthen those side obliques. And then take a look down at your toes, the right set of toes. And if you can't see them, move them forward just slightly until you can. That'll ensure that alignment through the body. Take a few more deep breaths here, remembering that the movement in this static pose is the breath. If your foot is lifted, bring it back down to the earth and press yourself up, coming back up into this position. And then slide the right leg in to meet the left. And we'll move to the other side. So this time, the right knee stays underneath the hip. The left leg comes out to the side. The heel presses down into the earth. The left set of toes move up toward the ceiling so the foot is flexed. Now the left hand comes down to the thigh. Remember that there's a softness in your knee. And breathe up the right hand, keeping the shoulder away from the ears, and exhale, beginning to bend over toward the left side. Taking some deep breaths here, feeling the breath inhabit the body. So there's usually this process as we move through the poses of losing our breath at the very beginning, and then the pose allows us that opportunity to reconnect with the breath. Remembering to hug the right thigh in, and taking one more deep breath along the right side of the body. Inhale to come back up, arms come out wide, and then start to bring the right hand down to the earth. You can lift the left leg up. The hand can reach up toward the ceiling or overhead if you'd like more stretch. Now this time we're lifting up through the right hip. It may also feel like we're pressing the pubic bone forward. And then take a look at the left foot to see if you can see your toes, keeping that foot flexed. And then take a few deep breaths into this pose. So where can you soften this pose? Feeling the strength of this pose and breathing to both the softness and the strength. Begin to release your foot back down to the earth if you have it lifted, and pressing yourself back up. And then sliding the right or the left knee into the right. Sit back onto your heels and grab your blocks out in front of you on their highest setting. Now, if you don't have blocks, this can be anything that brings the earth a little bit closer. It can be one stool out in front of you, or even an overturned bowl or something, or a stack of books. Let's start with our right foot forward. Now, if baby is growing and you feel like you're running out of space, you can always bring both blocks inside of your right ankle. I'm going to frame my foot for now, but know that that's always an option. Tuck your left set of toes and pick up the left knee. So as we begin or move toward this high crescent lunge, the feeling is that to get our hips square is that energetically we're sliding the right heel back and the left toes forward, and then squeezing into the inner thighs into a center line. So from here we are pressing the left heel back. The left leg is strong and straight. And maybe you can come up onto your fingertips. There's a long line from the crown of the head all the way down to the left heel. Now keep that chin tucked, just like we did in that seated position to start class. And so we're finding a little bit more length on the cervical spine. Now with your inhale, reach your arms forward and rise up using the strength of your legs. Now here, what we don't want is to have our rib cage thrusted forward. I'm going to turn so you can see what that looks like. With a rib cage thrusted forward, it looks more like a back bend. So what we're doing is we want to bring the rib cage onto the back of the body. It feels like we would be cutting off space for baby, but what we're actually doing is making a more even container of the womb. So even in the back and the front. So keeping the rib cage down and keeping the shoulders down and away from the ears. If you need a different position for the shoulders, bending the elbows and squeezing the shoulder blades on the back is a nice option. Or you can just widen the arms in more of a V. Take another deep breath in here, and your exhale floats the hands down to the blocks and lowering your left knee down to the earth, and your right knee comes back to meet it. We'll move to the other side. Left foot forward, tuck the right set of toes, pick up the right knee, press the right heel back, square your hips energetically, pulling that left heel back, pressing the right set of toes forward, and then squeezing the inner thighs in. Now, if you can come up onto your fingertips, tucking your chin in, your gaze is straight down, just a few inches ahead of your toes, your left set of toes. And feeling this long line of energy and the legs engage. Reach your hands forward on the inhale, and the exhale lifts you up using the strength of your legs. Again, lots of options for the shoulders, being mindful of the rib cage that it's on the back of the body. And breathing deep. Think about breathing or exhaling into the back of the body, all of those muscles on the back that support you. With your next inhale, the arms can reach up if they aren't already, and exhale, hands float down to the blocks, lowering your right knee down to the mat, and your left knee comes to meet that. Find that tabletop position with that neutral spine. Again, hands and wrists underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hip. With your next inhale, lift your right arm out in front of you and your left leg back behind you. Keeping the hips and the shoulders even and parallel to the earth. Flex through the foot. Keep reaching from your center. Keep your breath full. Soft belly, strong back here. As we're reaching in all of these opposite directions, we're also hugging into a center line. Keep pressing through your left hand and your right knee connected to the earth. And reach a little bit further from your center. Exhale to release the hand and the knee back down to the earth. Take your hips over toward the left side. Pausing here for a breath. Maybe adding a little bit of rocking sensation. And then coming around the heels and over to the right side. And taking that in an opposite direction. As you move through the left side, coming forward, finding that neutral spine position. With your inhale, breathing up the left arm and the right leg, flexing through the right foot, reaching in these opposite directions. So again, shoulders and hips are parallel. That might mean that you lower your leg toward the earth a little bit. What we don't want is this hyper or extension or back bend in the spine. So we want reaching forward, straight back, and rather than reaching from your elbow on the left side or from your right knee, find that extension from your center. Keep breathing in deep, filling up the belly with breath. And at the same time, we're hugging everything in, reaching in all these different directions. A true pose symbolizing motherhood as we're being pulled in opposite ways. Taking one more full breath of extension and exhale to lower the hands and the knee back down to the earth. Take your hips this time to the right side. Again, pausing here for a breath, maybe rocking back and forth. And then coming around the heels, around the left side, and opposite direction. And coming back to center. Sitting back on your heels, grab both blocks. I'm using blocks, again, whatever you have in your space. And bring your feet around so that the feet are about mat distance apart with the toes wider than the heels. And the hands can come into your heart center. Press the elbows into the thighs and then the thighs back into the elbows. Think about your pubic bone as tilted forward. What that does is it ensures a long spine. So what we don't want, as you can see it from the side view, is to round through the lower spine. We tend to sit like this when we're doing any kind of computer work or whatever. We want to tilt the hips and the pelvis forward so that the pubic bone is tilted forward. And then again, tucking the chin so that we have space in the cervical spine, into the neck. And close your eyes here. This yogi squat is a nice opportunity to take the breath even deeper. Notice the jaw and whether your jaw is clenched. The jaw is directly related to the hips. So oftentimes if we feel like our jaw is clenched, the hips will also be tight. And that especially is something to notice or pay attention to in the birth room on the birthday. So relax through the jaw. Take the tongue off of the roof of your mouth. Relax through the forehead and begin to deepen the breath, especially that exhale. If you're breathing in for a count of 3 or 4, the exhale is out for a count of 5 or 6. That's the best breath for the second stage of labor. Breathing in, finding more length in the spine. If it helps you to relax your jaw by bringing your hands, sometimes just that nice touch can be a reminder to soften. Go ahead and do that. Take 2 or 3 more breaths. Noticing here what there is to notice. Maybe this pose feels really nice on the hips. Maybe the opening feels very comfortable. Maybe this is not so comfortable on the hips and that you really have to work to stay in the body and in the moment. If your eyes are closed, you can open them. Bring your hands down to the earth. Lift the hips up. You can bring your props underneath you. And here we are in a forward fold. So allowing the blocks to bring the earth a little bit closer. Your feet can be as wide as needed to make space for baby, and your knees can be bent as much as is comfortable. Let your head and your neck release by shaking it out, yes and no. With your next inhale, press your hands to the top of the props to extend the spine. You can also bring your hands to your thighs to extend, tucking the chin, finding length from the very crown of your head to the tailbones, and exhale to bow forward. Allowing more weight to come into the toes, allowing the front of the body to work so the back of the body releases. We'll take that extension one more time. With your inhale, filling up with breath, begin to float the torso away from the earth, reaching the crown of the head forward. Exhale to bend as the crown of the head reaches down. Now keep the feet planted. Start to send a little bit of weight into your toe or into your heels. Bend the knees, sit back, and rise up using the strength of your legs. With your inhale, the arms float up, and exhale, hands into heart center. Again, inhale to reach arms up, finding length from the feet to the fingertips, and exhale to swan dive to your forward fold. Hand meets the props. Inhale to find more length. Weight in the toes. Keeping the weight in the toes as you bow forward, forward fold. Plant your feet, bend your knees, weight shifts back. Arms reach up with your inhale, and exhale, hands into heart center. We'll do one more of these half salutes. Arms reach up to the ceiling. Exhale to swan dive, leading with your heart in this forward fold. Weight is in your toes. Inhale to lift up halfway. And exhale to fold forward. Your crown reaches down. Plant your feet, bend your knees, rise up. Arms reach up with your inhale. And exhale, hands into heart center. Arms reach up. With your exhale, the left hand comes down to your thigh and hinge toward the left side. Keep your thighs moving together, just as if you had a block between them. Rib cage is on the back of the body. And planting the feet, especially the right foot, to find even more length along the right side of the body. Now pay attention to your breath. If you can't breathe or taking those full breaths, if that breath is compromised at all, it's just a nice time to back out. Full breath in, finding more space for baby. Inhale to reach both arms up, coming into the center. Exhale, right hand down to the thigh as you hinge over. Keeping the left shoulder away from the ears and soft inner thighs hug together. Pressing down through that left foot to find more space. Again, noticing the breath. If it's compromised, backing out. It's not a weakness. It's just an honoring of your body. Inhale to come back up to center. Both hands reach up. And exhale to sit back into a chair pose. Chair pose, the weight shifts into the heels. The shins shift back. Inner thighs hug in. And still the rib cage is on the back of the body. Deep breathing. There's a lot of heat that's starting to build in the body. Allow the breath to disperse that. Maybe you can sit a little bit deeper here. Take another inhale for length and exhale to dive forward, forward fold. Inhale to lift up for that long spine. From this long spine, hands come to the top of the blocks or whatever prop you're using, and lift your left leg back behind you. So we're pausing here in this balancing pose. Square the hips, keep the right inner thigh hugging in. The left foot is flexed and pulling you back. So we were in a similar pose earlier in practice of that spinal balance. If you would like a little bit more intensity here or a little bit more challenge, you can lift your right hand, mimicking that spinal balance we did on our knees earlier. Take one more breath here wherever you are. Maybe you can find more length through the body with your breath. And then exhale to slowly take the left foot down to the back of your mat. And pivot that left foot flat. So the whole foot is on the earth. And then rise up into a warrior two. The right knee is in a 90-degree angle. The right ankle is stacked directly under the right knee. And there's a little bit of softness in your left knee. Now reaching in these opposite directions with your hands, feeling that extension through the front of the body and that hugging in sensation on the back of the body. Take one more breath here, feeling this pose as you settle in. And with your next inhale, reaching forward, the elbow comes down to the thigh, and the left arm reaches up or overhead for a side angle pose. Now press even deeper into the outside of the left foot to counterbalance any of the weight all of the weight that's moving forward. And take a deep breath into all of these feelings moving into the body. All of these sensations. There is two opposite sensations of strength and softness, of effort and ease. With your next exhale, coming back up to center, using your obliques, and the left hand comes down to the left thigh. Open your right palm, reach the palm forward and reverse the warrior. So keeping the right knee bent, reaching up more than you reach back. Find more breath into this right side of your body. And coming back to center, warrior two. With your inhale, straighten your front leg, that right leg, so you can turn all 10 toes to this side of the room. And you can shorten your stance. If you're having any pubic symphysis pain, this is a good time to bring everything in. Hugging in will really help that. But take it as wide as feels comfortable for you. This is your practice. Hands come onto your hips, bend through your knees, and then shift the hips back. I'm going to take a side view here so that you can see that. Bend through the knees, shift the hips back. What that does is it aligns our hips with our ankles. And then begin to dive forward with your exhale. You can pause here with a flat back. You can even stay here if you would like. Or you can take this as deeply as you wish. Wherever you are, keep the weight in the toes. Again, we're allowing the back of the body to release. Shake the head out, yes and no. This pose feels better the farther along in pregnancy you are. With your next inhale, coming up to a flat back and starting to walk your hands to the left foot, bending into the left knee. So keeping the left knee over the ankle, the left knee is not going past the ankle. And breathing into this inner thigh, Skandasana. We're stretching the largest muscle of the body. And inhale to come back up to center and walk your hands over to the right side, bending the right knee, making sure that it stays over the right ankle, and taking a few deep breaths here. Allowing the mind to come back to the breath, letting this breath anchor you into the pose. And again, this pose is offering that opportunity to deepen the breath. Inhale to come back up to center. Walk your hands around to your right foot, pivoting on all 10 toes, and then stepping your left foot forward into a forward fold. Crown of your head reaches down, shake the head out, yes and no. And with your next inhale, come up to that long spine. Weight shifts back into the toes. And exhale to release. Press your feet into the earth. Shift your weight into your heels, your hips shift back, and rise up to high mountain pose. Inhale, arms up, and exhale, hands into heart center. This time, interlace your fingers behind your back. Squeeze the elbows and the shoulder blades back. Maybe the knuckles move down to the earth. And tuck your chin to your chest. Again, allowing or pressing the back of the head up toward the ceiling. And take your hands over to the left hip and allow the left ear to come to the left shoulder. The right shoulder softens, breathing into the space on the neck. And the chin comes down to the chest as the hands sweep around to the opposite hip. Now the right ear meets the right shoulder. The left shoulder softens. Hands sweep around, neck comes back to center, chin in towards your chest, and press your fingers or your knuckles down toward the earth. Keep squeezing the shoulder blades to the back of the body, feeling a nice stretch on the front of the body, on the front of the chest and across the collarbones. Now stacking the neck on top of the rest of the spine, release the hands. Inhale, arms reach up, and exhale to sit back into a chair pose. We won't be here for quite as long. Find your foundation as the weight moves into the heels. Rib cage is on the back of the body. Sitting deeply. Inhale to lift up through the spine and the waistline, and exhale to dive forward, forward fold. Inhale, crown of your head moves away from the earth. This time, keep your left leg or left foot planted as the thigh moves in, and lift your right leg up, keeping the foot of that right leg flexed like you're going to stomp back behind you, and keep the crown of the head moving forward. Little bit of a balancing pose. If you want to go even deeper, you can lift your left hand, reaching forward. Now keeping the shoulders and the hips parallel to the earth. Keep hugging that left inner thigh in. Find a little bit more length or a little bit more height to this lift in the leg, and exhale to begin to bring that right foot down to the back of the mat. So here we're pressing the right foot flat. So the left set of toes are pointed forward, and then rise up to a warrior two. Press into both feet firmly and energetically drag the heels toward one another. The left knee is stacked over the left ankle, and it's in this outer spiral. Your torso is right in the center of your body, maybe even feeling the breath all the way to the pelvic floor here, softening through the shoulders, reaching and extending through both arms. Deep breath. With your next inhale, reaching forward, and then the elbow comes down to the thigh. The right hand reaches up toward the ceiling or overhead. Pressing into the thigh with that left forearm will help you lift the torso a bit so that you're not collapsing into the side of the body. Again, there's effort and there's ease in this pose. Pressing back through the outside of the right foot. Find more length, find more breath. Let this pose breathe with you. The whole body breathes in this pose. Lifting back up through warrior two. The left or the right palm comes down to the thigh or to the hip, your choice. Open your left palm, reach forward, and then reach up to reverse your warrior. So we don't want collapsing the side in the back side or the right side of the body. Reaching up, expanding through the left side of the body. Breathing into baby. Take one more expansive breath. And then coming back to warrior two. Straighten the left leg on the inhale and turn all 10 toes forward. This time you can interlace your fingers on the back. If you choose to do that, go one finger over, just a little bit of yoga for the brain. And again, just like we did with our hands on our hips, bend through the knee slightly, send the hips back slightly, and now you can bow forward with your exhale. A nice stretch for the shoulders on the front of the body. Let your head and your neck release. Releasing the hands down to the earth or to a prop. Inhale to lift up, finding more length in the spine. And exhale to bow. Bend through your knees so you sit your hips back. Turn the toes out slightly. And then you can come up into a goddess pose or they also call this a horse stance. So hands reach out in front of you and let the hips sink. So we really want the thighs parallel to the earth, but we want our torso straight up and in a long line. So we're not sinking or shifting forward with our butt out. We're not hyper or putting a curve in the low back. So with just sitting into this stance, hands come out in front of you. We're going to add a kriya to this pose. So with your next breath, sweep the left hand around the back of the head, and then it comes back forward. And then the right hand comes back around and reaches forward. Keep this up. Think about those things that might be on your mind or worrying you about the birth. And from your focus, we are sweeping them off of the back. And with the thought of letting them go. Keep breathing here. Deepen the breath even more. And if there's anything that is on your mind about the birth, whether that's from your own previous birth story or from a family member, allowing that to move off of your focus or your periphery, off of your shoulders. Continue to take these deep breaths. And if you are having troubles connecting to that breath, go ahead and take a break for a minute so you can reconnect with that deep breath. And then find your way back into the pose, sweeping each arm from your focus. Long exhales here. Notice where you're trying to avoid the pose or the sensation, and match the breath to that sensation. So deepen the breath even more. Two more breaths. You can do anything for 2 breaths. As your hands reach center, straighten the legs, reach the arms up into star pose. Take any movement of choice here for 3 or so breaths. Maybe taking your hips into circles or figure 8, or stretching the side body into a pyramid or a triangle pose. Whatever it is for you to transition as we move on to our seat. So take a few breaths, start to move down onto your seat, however you want to get there. And stretch your legs out wide in a V as you settle in. Again, think about moving the pubic bone so it's tilted toward the earth. Long spine. Flex through both feet. And we'll start to just take a a slight or gentle forward fold. So hands can come out directly in front of you. Keep the legs moving in an outer spiral. And think about keeping the spine long. Reconnect with your breath. Start to walk your hands over to the right leg. You can take your hand to the inside of the leg or on the shin or the thigh, and then lift the left arm up and over. So a stretch along the side body, but also into the SI on the left side. So if you're having any low back or SI joint pain, this should stretch the muscle that runs right over the top of that. And then begin to bring the hands back down to the earth, walking back to the center. Maybe pausing there or moving straight back over to the left side. This time the hand comes in front of the left leg or onto the left shin. Legs keep moving in an outer spiral. Inhale the right arm up and overhead. So it's like you're reaching your hand down to grab your toes. Nice stretch on the low back on the right side into the SI. And bringing your hands back down to the earth and pressing yourself up to a seat, bringing your soles of your foot in together in front of you. And we'll start with our feet close in this time. Again, pubic bone is still tilted forward. Hands can come to the toes or the ankles or even the shins. And you can stay right here, or you can start to bow forward any amount. You can let your elbows press the thighs down. Keeping a long spine, so watching any roundness through the back. You want to keep the crown of the head reaching forward. With your next inhale, coming back up to center. And bring the legs out in front of you, about mat distance, or a little wider than hip distance apart. Fingertips come behind you with your fingers pointing toward you. And a slight squeeze of the shoulder blades on the back, and start to take the legs over to one side, going as deep in this twist as feels comfortable, and coming back up to center and over toward the other side. And back up, just moving through this windshield wiper. And back up and over. And coming back up to center. And beginning to make your way into your final resting pose. So you can take it in a recline.